Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor to call together the regular meeting of the Monterey Peninsula Water Supply Project Governance Committee today, Wednesday, April 17th, 2019, at about 2:01. May I have the roll called, please?
Yes. Bill Peak.
Here.
Mary Adams.
Here.
Director Evans.
Here.
And Rich Finland.
Here.
All present.
Thank you very much. And now if you will please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now, is there any member of the public that would like to comment on anything that is not on today's agenda?
Good afternoon, Tom Raleigh. Looking at the minutes for July 18th, the last one that's in your packet, I expressed suggestion that time. Again, I represent Monterey Peninsula Taxpayers Association, and which hopefully represents people's pocketbooks that are paying the freight on all of this eventually. I'm aware that the sanctuary a year ago through NOAA passed in the Federal Register fees that would require desal to pay for water extracted from the bay as well as discharge into the bay. And I believe there was a waiver provision in that, and if a waiver has not been requested, I had hoped that it would be on the agenda for today. I didn't see it. This is a cost that we know we would all like to avoid, and I looked at the formulas. It was in our packet for the Sanctuary Advisory Council a year ago, and if anybody can figure out their magic formulas, both for removing water for desal and discharging the brine, be my guest. It's so complicated. The best thing you can do is get a waiver. So I don't know if CalAm needs to be directed by the governance committee to do that. Mr. Svindlin's here. But if you don't request a waiver, you're not going to get it. So I think I've already lobbied the superintendent, Mr. Michelle, to please support a waiver if it's forthcoming. And we do have our Sanctuary Advisory Council meeting this Friday in Moss Landing all day, and I will raise this issue again. We need to save every cent that we can. This is going to be, we all know, expensive for all the ratepayers, as it is for the ratepayers and the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raleigh. Is there any other member of the public that would like to speak to anything that isn't on the agenda today? Seeing none, then we will go into our action items. And the first action item that we have is to elect a committee chair and vice chair. And again, I'll go out to the public for comment before we begin today, before we bring it to the board. Any member of the public who wishes to comment on election of the chair and the vice chair? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for action. I would be happy to nominate my colleague, Ms. Director Evans, as chair. If anyone would wish to second that.
Second.
Oh, how nice. Thank you. Okay, so we have why don't we go ahead and take a separate vote. So all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And now for a vice chair.
I nominate Mary Adams.
I'll second that.
Very good. Thank you very much. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Any member of the public wish to comment on that one? Okay, great. Good. Okay, we're in charge then. So I guess I'm going to have to hand the gavel over to the new chair of the board. Thank you very much. And with that, I will allow the new chair of the board to please continue with the meeting.
Okay, very well. Thank you. All right, wonderful job. Maybe you should open all of the water board meetings this way. All right, we'll move on to item number 2, approve committee meeting minutes of July 18th, 2018. I will open it up to public comment if anyone has any comments on the minutes. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. I would like to state that I wasn't at the last meeting, so I don't feel qualified to vote on the contents, so I would abstain.
I was at the last meeting, and I do feel that Mr. Raleigh's comments are apt, that we had discussed this. We have a couple of items that we suggested come back as items, future items for the agenda. And I just want to make sure that we don't continue to lose sight of these sorts of things, that we do look at the different items that we need to address, and that we bring them forward. Saying that, however, it is not. I cannot say that the meeting minutes are inappropriate or incorrect. It's simply that we did not take action on those minutes. So, as someone who was here for the meeting, I'll vote to accept the minutes.
Just to clarify, I'm a
Sorry.
non-voting member, but I would say that the meetings
The minutes reflect the meeting.
yes, reflect.
Great, good. And since you are not Bill Camp, I don't think you can either.
So we need 2 votes to approve the minutes, so I will vote to approve with one small correction. I noticed that Bill Kemp's last name has 2 different spellings in the minutes.
Neither is correct.
Maybe we should
I'll correct Bill's name.
clear that up for people that
Thank you.
phonetically they're the same.
Okay.
There is an E. So I can-
There's a motion and a second. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion carries 2 to nothing with 1 abstention, I think is how we say it.
Okay.
Chair, with minor amendments.
Sorry, you are correct. Motion carries with minor amendments, yes. Thank you, keeping me honest. Okay, moving on to number 3, adopt the 2019 committee meeting schedule. Again, any public comment? Okay, seeing none, bring it back to the board for discussion.
Move to accept?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we'll move on to number 4, California American Water Notification Number 14, providing recommendations on selector of contractor, terms of final contract for the following 2 contracts: construction of Fitch Park ASR Wells 5 and 6, and Fitch Park ASR Wells 5 and 6 above ground facilities.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim O'Halloran. I'm the engineering manager for Cal-Am Central District. So the first item we're bringing before you is the ASR proposals for construction of wells 5 and 6.
Yeah, it's, I'm just trying to see, well, we'll just go right on.
Just go through the PDF. Okay, so this is the project site map for wells 5 and 6. This is adjacent to General Jim Moore Boulevard and Seaside. And you can see the 5 and 6 are separated by a couple hundred feet. You can go on, Arlene.
It won't, okay.
Oh, will it allow me to scroll through a PDF? I'll try.
That's okay.
So the overview of our ASR 5 and 6 project, September 29th, 2018, we issued an RFP for proposals to construct the wells. December 1st, we received 2 proposals. And the proposals included a 12-month construction duration for both the ASR projects. So the schedule, March of 2020, we anticipate ASR pipelines to be completed. June of 2020, site preparation for ASR wells. August of 2020, start with ASR drilling, and substantial completion in August of 2021. Let's see, did we skip
did
a
let
slide?
you-
It did, yeah. There.
I think it's, so it is allowing you to,
So backwards is the bottom, but
okay, good.
Okay, so well construction for the ASR facilities, we had 2 We received 2 proposals, one from Zim Industries and one for Pacific Coast. Both of them were under our anticipated budget for the project. What was included in this portion was well drilling, development, testing, pump installation, sound walls, and separately we bid out the above ground facilities. So we evaluate the proposals on a series of criteria, not only value, and in that, project delivery, including DB utilization, local resources, schedule, cost effectiveness, which is a bid price, business terms and conditions, and proposer financial qualifications. And under the evaluation, Zim Industries ranked first out of all the criteria. So Zim Industries is very experienced, has worked with CalAm on several projects, highly skilled, most cost-effective proposal. We've had good experience with them in the past. They did commit to a 12-month construction schedule, and our recommendation is to award a contract to Zim Industries. So that concludes my presentation on the below-ground facilities.
Do you want to move on to the
Yeah. So this is the consideration of the above-ground facilities. So this is the this is all of the piping, the well facilities, the facilities you'll see as you go to the site above the surface. So again, we issued the RFP September 29th and received proposals December 1st. And then the schedule includes completion of design in June of 2019. So partial design as part of the proposal. Start construction August of 2021 and substantial completion August 2022. So we received 2 proposals for this contract, one from Hal Hayes and one from Monterey Peninsula Engineering. Hal Hayes was the lowest bidder, just under our estimated cost of $6 million. This project, the scope includes the electrical building, SCADA, instrumentation, disinfection facilities, testing permits, sound enclosures, similar to what was constructed previously for ASR 3 and 4. So similar ranking and evaluation, similar categories, and Hal Hayes ranked first in all categories. Hal Hayes and their design team are both highly experienced. They were the most cost effective, known to be efficient. Schedule is 4 months for completion of design and 12 months for completion of construction. So our recommendation is to award to Hal Hayes. So if we could go on to the next one, Arlene.
Can we discuss these 2 first?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Does any of the members of this board have questions for Mr. O'Halloran?
I have a few, thank you. I was wondering, what's the comparison of this response from Zim to the prior wells? Is it Seaside Middle School 3 and 4 or number 4? How how do the costs compare?
You know, I don't have that information. I don't know.
It's similar.
Similar.
Well, yeah, I was gonna comment that,
Oh,
because we've
sorry.
done 4 wells, right?
Yeah.
The district did a couple, we've done them together, and what, in my discussions with Ian Crooks, who's the vice president of engineering, everything seems to be in line, so that's typically the barometer we would use, that it's comparable to what we've been doing out there.
Now, I was wondering, what did you find that the Zim could improve upon?
Not sure you're, well,
Well, they did a couple of wells. Did everything go perfectly to schedule and on cost, or did you make any design changes as a result of learning from the prior wells?
Well, for prior CalAm work that we've used them. I don't know, would you go with respond to that, Don?
Well, one thing that we wanted to do, I'm Donald Momet, the Assistant Engineering Manager for CalAm. And so one thing we wanted to do this time, a little bit different, was to improve on the site safety coordination and insist that they have a third-party site safety coordinator there to watch the work at all times. There weren't too many other things that were different than ASR3. ASR3 was a success, and we believe they're the right contractor to do the work, so.
Okay, I saw that you're a third contractor safety inspection. I thought that was
Unusual?
very good.
Oh, okay, no, it's a good idea to have a third party, I think, to look at site safety at all times.
If the desal plant doesn't move forward, these wells can be used for what purpose?
so that came up in the last meeting as well, and there's no question that helps with the reliability of the existing as well we have, right? Users for it. But on mechanical devices, things don't always work in any work, so that's very focused on running through there. But the bottom line is they will help with the extraction of the base up and the treated water and the EWR process, which is what is going on. So they will be used.
Okay. And performance step, sure.
Oh, I thought it was on. Thank you. Also, there were some reports a couple years ago about some well plugging and the presence of mercury in prior wells. Have you done any studying, any improvements as a result of seeing this experience?
See, unfortunately, Tim is new.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have
Okay,
all the
so I'm
background.
right here. Oh,
Well, you know, it's a continuing process where you have well clogs because that's just a natural condition of wells. They clog up, precipitates form on the screens, and you have to continually improve it. You have to do chemical washing, mechanical washing. In fact, on the ASR well, number 1, they had a 40% reduction in the capacity of the screens and had to do a chemical wash and mechanical wash. This is something that gets done on a 3 to 5 year basis. So it's a good thing we're putting 5 and 6 in because it gives you more, I want to say, reliability, larger capacity, and you have to keep on top of this and watch this at all times. Looking at what they call a drawdown, and the drawdown measures basically your ability to pump. So we're putting these wells in, but the other ones you have to go and rehabilitate those every 3 to 5 years. It's quite a process, So I think that would answer your question about well clogging. On the mercury, I know that Pueblo Water Resources, another hydrogeologist and well design firm, is looking at that. And I don't know the conclusions yet. I'm informed, periodically about mercury, and we know that mercury could be an issue, so you have to pay attention to oxidation of mercury. You don't want that. But that's an issue that needs to be looked at.
so if I may, so you said rework the wells every 5 years. So you're talking about pulling the screens.
Not essentially, it could be done with chemicals at first, but it progressively gets worse and worse, you know, and you have to go in there and pull the pumps. I'm not sure how they did ASR 3 exactly, if they did chemical wash or mechanical wash or both.
Well, this is probably not the right format, but chemical wash in water wells for potable water. Would love to have some insurance at some time that that's not an issue with water quality.
It's done.
It's done
All the time.
routinely.
Yeah,
So,
routine.
and CalAm has annual programs for rehabilitating wells.
I would argue it's a way of life with any well owner.
Yeah.
And there's a process you have to go through before you get it certified to put it back in service. So it's not the process.
Okay.
Think of it as brushing your teeth. You're not supposed to swallow your toothpaste. You spit it out. So there's some stuff in toothpaste you don't like. Cal's currently rehabbing the Ryan Ranch well right now, and it's a chemical wash. It's you can use seismic, you can use pressure. These wells are back flushed all the time, so the decline doesn't always occur on time. The mercury issue, we're still addressing it. It's geology. It has nothing to do with, well, it does have to do with whether your water is oxidated or comes in oxidized. We're looking at either treatment at the injection point or at the extraction point if needed, but right now the only mercury levels that matter kind of travel with the front between native water and non-native water, and so that it's possible to just basically blow that water off and get past the mercury readings that DDW cares about. So we're looking at that. The wells that Orange County Water District had, where they're doing injection for similar to Pure Water Monterey, had high arsenic levels, and it's just because the water quality was so aggressive it pulled arsenic out of the stone. So it has a lot to do with what the localized geology is. There's no guarantee that, we're about a quarter mile, half a mile further up the road from the other two ASR sites. There's no guarantee that geology is going to be exactly the same. So we don't know, but we're working with Department of Drinking Water on it. It doesn't look like it's going to be a long-standing issue, but we've designed into the treatment building that's going in at ASRs 1 and 2 the capacity to put in wellhead treatment if needed. So it'll be addressed.
And hey, Dave, to clarify, it's not all 4 wells that have that
Right.
mercury issue. It's
It's just one.
And
That's
back
my
to
understanding.
lessons learned, so we would endorse Zim because we've worked with them, we know them. We don't have any opinion on Hal Hayes because we've never worked with them.
He's right here.
Yeah, we have no opinion. We do have concerns about the timing of development. So when you guys are developing a well, we'd like to know what that calendar looks like. Because you're going to be competing for space. I think one of the early issues was trying to use the outfall of the Army. We proposed that you not do that and keep the water in the basin so that you don't get, so it's not an out-of-basin extraction. But we're just more concerned about the timing, so that'll be an issue we'll work with you guys on. If desal doesn't move forward, there is a need for extraction capacity. I think we proved this year that we're still trying to fully utilize the injection capacity of the new Monterey pipeline, and so I don't think there'd be a whole lot of additional value to these 2 wells for injection until we figure out operationally how to get more water in the pipeline. And that's all I have. But lessons learned on Zim, it's a well. The bigger issues have been Baskey valves and priming, operational issues with the pumps. It's less so the wells and the well drilling. So I think it's a pretty good team.
Thanks for your comments, Dave.
Thank you. Further
There's
questions?
a couple of questions on the above-ground facilities.
Okay.
Who completed the above-ground facilities for ASR 3 and 4? Was that Hal Hayes?
No, this is their first project for
Yes.
ASR
That would
here.
be NPE, Monterey Peninsula Engineering.
Okay. And I was wondering, and they came in second this time. I assume you learned some lessons learned from the above-ground facilities for 3 and 4 that are incorporated into the ASR for 5 and 6?
Certainly the staff has, it's a new contractor, so, he's probably has some risks he doesn't know about, knowing now the difference between his bid and number 2 bid. But we'll work closely with them to make sure they deliver it on budget and on time. That's part of our job as the owner.
And last question, I thank you for bearing with me. So has the above-ground facilities for ASR 3 and 4 been performing to specifications in terms of capacity throughput? You monitor corrosion?
Yeah, sound
Things.
barrier works, the buildings are fine. 3 and 4 are smaller. 1 and 2, it's affectionately referred to as the Taco Bell by some people because it's in kind of a Spanish style. I think maybe lessons learned here is work with the city of Seaside's planning department and good luck with what you get. And the lessons learned, it's really just a building, fairly standard construction.
Did you not like that tile and white building look?
Oh, I think it looks fine. Its orientation's a little odd, it was all geared towards being under the right of way of the power lines. But it'll look great in about a year with all the landscaping in there.
I'm sorry, just thank you. Mayor, just one more. And then
I
I'll
don't know. I
finish.
think you might have used up all your questions.
I'll cede a couple of mine to him.
Why for 2? You only got two responses for both the well package and for the AGF package. Any idea why? Went out to bid on 7.
Yeah,
For
I
the
can
wells,
address
do you
that.
know?
That's pretty
No.
typical for what we're seeing here. MPE is the local firm that's been here forever, and they seem to get a lot of the work, and some other contractors shy away because they seem to always get the work. So the fact that we have Hal Hayes here now is actually a benefit to the company because we do have competition, and competition is always important.
I
Yes,
agree.
I wish 3 or
Right.
4 would have happened, but we're pleased with it too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Supervisor Adams, do you have any questions?
I just,
Where is Hal Hayes located?
Good question. So we are out of Riverside, California. We have a presence we have another office in Redding as well. We do a lot of work throughout the state of California, everywhere from Susanville all the way down to Imperial Beach for California American Water. A lot of work in our 28-year history for the federal government, a lot of design build work similar to this.
I'm sorry, would you mind coming to the microphone? Thank you. You don't have to restate everything.
Sure. So I'm Kirby Hayes with Hal Hayes Construction. We're out of Riverside, California. We are in our 28th year in business, a family business. We have about 200 employees, Native American owned. So we are a DBE firm. Last year we were recognized nationally as the National Minority Supplier Development Council National Supplier of the Year, over 5,000 diverse firms nationwide. A little bit of history on us. When we've been working for California American Water for about 2.5 years now, delivering some of their flagship projects over that time. This would be our first design build project with them, but as I mentioned previously, we've delivered over 100 design build projects for the federal government in the last 15 years. Part of the reason why you may see a cost disparity between us and the other contractor, frankly, we love working for California American Water, and this was one of the districts that we have yet to have gotten our foot in the door. And so this is one that we had identified as one that we could be very competitive on, using our own forces, using our best management, using our own equipment, and being able to put our best foot forward in working with the local team here. And so that's not to say that we cut any corners or anything like that per se. It's just, on a project like this where, some contractors may be apt to put, a higher profit percentage, we put a very nominal but safe profit percentage in order to assure that we can deliver the project confidently and still make the fee that we're accustomed to making.
thank you.
Okay. I'd like to open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on these items? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. I'd like to talk about this for a moment, if I may. So, I'm my first meeting here on the governance board and governance committee, and so I went back and I looked through the charge of the committee to find out what the purpose of this group was. And it is to consult with, advise, and in some circumstances provide direction to CalAm concerning design and permitting, construction, et cetera, for the water supply project, or for components of the desalination project. So, okay, I understand now why I'm here. And then in reviewing the proposals, come to this next one where it says, you know, a matter deemed ripe for presentation, and you need to have a notification letter, which you did. And then, but the notification letter, if I remember correctly, was dated April 10th, and the information was not put on the website for me to find until yesterday. And in going through it, there are 3,031 pages that I needed to read since yesterday. And that is 3 reams of paper, double-sided. And Arlene has printed them out in the binders, part of her requirements for this. And in case you don't know, I do this in my day job. I read RFPs, I issue RFPs, right, things like that. So I like to spend some time knowing what I am reading. And I didn't have the time to get through this appropriately. And I don't feel qualified to even advise or consent or anything on this today. And I think that it was, I think that this committee should have more time to review these documents. Okay. And I don't want this committee to just be considered rubber stamp committee, that anything you bring in your opinion is what we just automatically have to accept because we have no time to prepare. So it would be my recommendation, and I'll make it as a motion, that we request more time to review these and reconvene in a future date when there's time to go through all of this.
Can I respond just briefly?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the process is, and you know, we haven't been meeting regularly because there's not a lot going on, but last July we issued the RFP documents, which, you know, it's similar in size because it's the entire bidding package. And now here we are coming back with the recommendation of the RFP package that was reviewed by the committee and said go forth. And we're saying, okay, we bid it out. Here's the firm we recommend. So I guess the idea is, yeah, why there's no way you could read 3,000 pages in you know, a couple days. Our thought was, but this was the same document last time. Now we just have numbers in there.
Right. No, I recognize it's the same document, and I know that I'm coming in and reading that document to get familiar with it. That is on me. I understand that. But I also had the option here. I could ask for more time by notifying the chair, which we didn't have a chair either. Right. So I don't feel comfortable just accepting. No offense, your recommendation is probably okay, yeah. But you know, when looking at it, when even on the first one, Zim's proposal is almost 1,400 pages, and Pacific Coast Well Drilling is 79. I mean, I'd like to know what the disparity was. Why did, you know, I just wanted more time to look at this. I don't feel qualified to discuss it.
Okay. So we'd be pleased to come back in whatever timing schedule works for you. I mean, I think from the schedule that Tim proposed, we're not under the gun, you know, right now. So we do have some flexibility in timing.
Okay. My committee members.
So you made that in the form of a motion. I guess you'll need a second to the motion in order for us to really even have a discussion about it.
Very true.
So then I'd like to ask a question of staff, essentially. Will this have any impact if we were to allow more time for review? Is it going to give us any heartburn?
Is that a second? Well, I think first we'd have to know that the bidders will keep their proposals open sufficient time. I think I don't know if it's built into the RFP, but
it is built in.
Okay.
Escalation factors.
Well, I mean, if we're just talking less than a month, it hopefully wouldn't escalate. Yeah.
More to look over things.
Yeah. So as long as they keep their proposals intact,
to that point, I'm not necessarily asking for another month. I mean, if I had the full week to look at these, it would have taken me the full week, but I would have had it done. But 24 hours is not sufficient.
Well, we need a meeting with Rich for other purposes, so whenever you can get him back here, that would be handy. But anyway, the request was, would it cause a problem? Absolutely not.
Okay.
If it's done within 30 days, it's not a problem.
Thank you.
So you public comment?
I already opened it up for public comment,
Okay, back to the,
and then I brought it back to the board for discussion, and that's when I brought this up.
and we have a motion and a
So
second.
there is, so we have a motion and a second.
I guess we'll call for the
So-
question.
Discussion on the motion.
Discuss the motion, let's discuss it.
We'd like to know the time frame, the amount of time that you think we need to reconvene to. You said less
I
than
w-
30 days.
Yes, I would
you
appreciate a week.
Venture a week.
I would be happy to reconvene next Wednesday if that was appropriate for all those concerned. Well,
Would you
that
like
having
to
said, I
propose?
should probably check
Would you
my
like to
calendar.
propose a time and date?
Let's do this, sorry.
I will be in Sacramento at that time.
Is there another day that, next week that would work?
I'm not available next week, but I don't think you, the staff would be here. Yeah.
Excuse me, what day? What day are you proposing?
I had proposed Wednesday, but that doesn't work for Supervisor Adams, so I'm just wondering what day works for her.
So we have the Seaside Groundwater Basin meeting on May 1st.
I don't want to push it out that far.
Yeah, I think I noticed a cancellation on that yesterday.
You feel like that's too
I
long,
w-
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, oh, of course it's too long. Okay,
That actually
I
does
could-
work better for me though, if you want me here, only because we have, the night before we'll be at City of Marina on their hearing for the slant wells. So I will be spending the night and I'll be here on May 1st in town.
is there any possibility that you would be available May 2nd? Before your meeting? If it's a quick,
No,
Right.
May 2nd I'm flying out of town.
I won't be
May
available
1st
all
I'm
week.
here.
you're not going to be there,
and
the whole week is
The
not
whole
going to
week.
work, yeah, okay. So I think, how about Friday, the 26th?
Works for me. Mayor Pete,
Could we do it in the morning?
Yes,
whatever time you would like.
9 o'clock?
Perfect.
Very well.
Okay,
Okay, so I will amend my motion to include a reconvening on Friday, April 26th at 9 a.m.
okay,
So we're continuing.
Continuing,
This
the
Item.
item. That's correct.
actually, it would be to continue items 4 and 5.
And 5. 'Cause 5 has the same issue.
So, do I need to restate?
A vote? Is there a vote?
So the motion is to continue items 4 and 5 to April 26th at 9 a.m. And
I'll
I
second that.
Second, still good.
Wait a second, in terms of public comment,
Oops,
those are two very different items. And so you're taking item 5 off the public agenda today?
Yes, and moving it to next Friday.
What if the public has something to say about that?
we should hear from the
Then we
public.
will hear from the public.
I just,
Okay. So,
So you need to amend your motion to include items 4 and 5, and I seconded that motion.
correct.
Okay, and we've had one question from the other board members, so you want to,
So I don't know what
Take
the
it out to
proper
the pub-
procedure is. Do I open it up for public comment on
I
that
thi-
item
yeah.
before we vote on the motion? Because if we vote on the motion, we're continuing the item.
yeah, but you're getting rid of public comment.
Open it up and then, and you probably can speak on the second at any time, so you can ask them to come up with public comment, close it and then vote.
Very well.
let's do that. Thank you.
So I
You
will open up.
Attorneys really are worth something, aren't they? On occasion.
There's a seat up there, Don, come.
All right, so before we vote on the motion, I will open it up for public comment on items 4 or 5.
Mike Warburton for Public Trust Alliance, and these are mixing two things, and one of them is the slant well system. That is on the assumption that everything is on the go moving forward with the slant well system. And I don't think that that is possible to do. And because the project could move forward much less expensively if Cal-Am was not moving forward with the slant well system. And the other ones, you know, could wait, but this summer and now is a very interesting time where it's not clear what's happening. The Public Utilities Commission has issued a final decision, so interveners are no longer being compensated. And so that process has closed down, and there's a real need for receptivity to changing circumstances. I've talked about this a lot before, that this circumstances have changed, and I'm making the comment now because I would like it to be noted that that you can't just assume that everything is gangbusters and going forward in the desal aspect of the project.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on items 4 or 5? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment, and we'll return to the motion at hand, which is to continue items 4 and 5 to April 26th at 9 a.m. With a second. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. We'll move on to item 6, discussion, which is a status report by California American Water as to the Monterey Peninsula Water Supply Project and Monterey Pipeline and Pump Station Project final closeout.
All right, thank you. So the Monterey Pipeline and Pump Station was completed late 2018. It was fully commissioned, in service. It has delivered about 900 acre feet of water to be injected into the ASR wells so far. It was completed at a cost of $50.3 million. Cal-Am has submitted an advice letter to the PUC to that effect, and the project is complete at this state. So any questions related to that?
Any questions from either of you? Nope. I have no
Just
question.
a comment for everyone. This was phase 2 of the Monterey Peninsula Water Supply Project that the commission authorized us to proceed with, and the commission authorized us to spend $50.33 million, and we submitted the advice letter for $50.31 million. So very proud of the team for delivering it pretty much on budget. And, you know, the schedule, we did have some, I wouldn't say challenge with the schedule, but, you know, we were hoping that it would be in service a year earlier, but we did get it in service for ASR injection, which is what the goal was. And so it's eased our operations staff's ability to do ASR injection with having the pipeline in service. So real proud of the team for getting that done.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question. I know you've tested the pipeline. Is it in service now?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's completely operational. So it's injecting Carmel Valley water into the aquifer currently.
So if you were to walk on the bridge and put your hand on there, you'd feel water.
Feel
going
it.
through it.
Well, I noticed there was a lot of discussion about the Highway 68 overpass, and I don't know, it's hard to even notice it. You're just going by too fast, perhaps.
And we actually discussed that at the last meeting here, and Mr. Riley, who was one of the critics originally, apologized. He said it did come out a lot nicer than he thought it would. He thanked us for that. So it was Dave was here as a witness. So we're proud of that as well. That we listened to the community and we did something that the community wanted to have done. And it, like I said, it blends in perfectly with the surrounding.
So I'd like to open this up for public comment.
Dave Salt, Water Management District, couple of clarifications. Tim said over 900, it's actually 1,126 right now, which is the second largest injection year ever for us. However, it did underperform relative to what we represented to the PUC for a variety of issues. Nina was not too happy when I mentioned that at the meeting Monday night, but we're going to get together with the team, with CalAm, and try to see if we're better prepared next year to leverage it a little more efficiently. We have no doubt that the capacity for going in the other direction for Pure Water Monterey and eventually the desal plant will work at a higher volume, certainly, but there's still some issues in trying to move water around from the Carmel Valley. With that being said, I also want to point out that there was about $6 million of additional allowance for funds used during construction. So basically fronting the interest on the money. So it's really more like 56.3 million total to the rate base.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on public comment?
Public Trust Alliance again. I was just wondering if this agenda item included the report. Is the slant well included in this item, of everything being on schedule? Because I was just curious on in terms of how the Coastal Commission might be deciding, because the permit was only granted for a test well, and
I'm sorry. Are you commenting on the report that they just gave on the pipeline pump station?
I think he's coming to
what I'm commenting on is status of other aspects.
Oh, status of other aspects. Sorry, understood. Thank you.
The project, because there are issues in front of the Coastal Commission, and right now it's not clear whether the permit was a de minimis condition, you know, for that it could be sort of assumed. I made an objection and requested information to be sent back. The Coastal Commission never sent it back, and I don't understand why I haven't been communicated with, because this is such a controversial item that's going through now, and there should be an obligation on CalAm to either, you know, argue that, you know, that there is an actual reason that that test well should not be filled, because it does establish communication between different levels of the aquifer, and the risk to the marina water supply has been recognized. And so it's an issue of continuing injury. And so the closing out the Monterey Peninsula Water Supply System report is inappropriate, you know, as long as that that slant well is open and continuing to injure water supply.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none. Close public comment.
Can I respond to some of this?
Yes,
if that works?
actually, yes, of course.
Yeah, so to Dave's comment, just as an indicator, acknowledge that maybe there were, if we had more capacity on the river, we could have injected more. That's always seems to be an issue going forward, because there are other bottlenecks besides the pipeline now. But I would mention that we did a kind of a high-end volume pump test for a couple hours to prove that at least, remember, I testified what it would do, and it did that. So that was the, that part happened, and I'm real proud about that. But acknowledge, yes, that we do need to make sure we have enough capacity on the river for future wet years to maximize the ASR portion of the project.
There's about 4 or 5 items, but we'll get.
Okay, we got that. All right, thanks. And then to Mr. Warburton's comments, I'd certainly just like to say that for the test well itself, that project was subject to litigation by several parties. It went to Superior Court in Santa Cruz multiple times, and each time Cal-Am's side prevailed. I believe there was 3 separate lawsuits. All those were appealed, and all the appeals were denied. Cal-Am came forward, so we're doing everything what we've been asked to do on that well. As far as the current wells, they are currently with the City of Marina right now as part of the local coastal development permit process, and that's going through the process. So it's not ready or ripe yet for the Coastal Commission. It has to go through the City of Marina first.
Didn't the Coastal Commission have to act to extend the permit?
They did.
And they did?
Mm-hmm. That's my understanding, yes, they did. At a previous Coastal Commission meeting. Okay, and that's it.
All right,
Thanks.
that's great. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to number 7, informational report by California American Water regarding satellite system interconnect.
This is in regards to the Ryan Ranch intertie and the Hidden Hills intertie. And
Before you go, can I just do a little intro?
oh,
Yeah, Don, thanks. So this, just for clarification and why this is on there, this is an interesting project. So in the general rate case that Cal-Am does, and statutorily has to do every 3 years, we filed to do this project, and it was approved in our rate case. So it's not technically under the purview of the governance committee. However, the CEQA coverage for this project is included in the Monterey Peninsula Water Supply Project's EIS. So Don is here to just give everyone an update of where it is, but it's not an action item per se for the governance committee. Okay. But we're just wanting everyone to know what's going on.
Thank you.
And the desal project, the desalination plant itself was sized to provide water to these 3 systems as a long-term solution for the Laguna Seca issue. All right, thanks, Don.
okay. Thanks for that, Richard. So Ryan Ranch, the bid package is ready for bidding, and we'll be sending that out as soon as we can. So I don't anticipate it taking more than a few weeks to get through the bid invitation and have our pre-bid meeting and do all that and getting that process. So that's ready to go. The Hidden Hills intertie is being worked on. That's at about 90% completion for phase 1. There is a phase 2, and that will continue right after phase 1. So that involves a bit more pipeline to be put in and some improvements to one of the pump stations. So we learned through discovery that we had to upgrade or expand our first phase 1 project to include 1 additional pump station and about 1,800 feet of pipeline. That's all I have. You know, as far as the time frame with Hidden Hills, we can see that taking about 4 to 6 months for design, and then it progressing into a bid process. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Any questions? No? No? Okay. We'll open this up for public comment.
Dave Stolt with the Water Management District. Just a reminder, Lori Gerard's favorite subject. We will need a water distribution system amendment for the addition of all of the new appurtenant features. So before, and certainly with the intertie, it can be complete before the replacement supply is ready. So there will obviously be a condition of no opening the intertie because of the CDO and what have you. So another amendment with conditions to affect the use.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Move on to number 8, suggest items to be placed on future agendas.
Tom Raleigh again. Just quick afterthought on why I think the justification to ask for the waiver from the sanctuary for the intake and discharge fees. With 40,000 customers, you do the math. I think sometimes the PUC and the consultants we've heard that come down here think we have 1 million people living here on the Monterey Peninsula paying the freight. With only 40,000, or it's actually slightly less than that, I guess, according, I think, what General Manager Stoll told us recently. So the thing is, we need all the help we can get to try and help the ratepayers out. And that's the rationale for why I think you can justify requesting the waiver. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else with suggestions for items for future agendas?
For Public Trust Alliance, I think there's substantial goodwill that everybody can do this without, litigation and tearing apart on people. But the notion that securities fraud might be involved if bonds are approved for the desal project, because those costs have been increasing. They've been increasing and growing in certainty. And at this point now, it's hundreds of millions to billions of dollars. And the alternative, in going forward, of the expanded Monterey 1 plant would cover for the CDO for the foreseeable future, and it seems far more prudent and reasonable when you're talking about putting costs on these ratepayers, who are bearing tremendous freight. Use hard numbers and see if it makes any sense at all to move forward with the desal. And the waiver makes absolutely no sense at all, because you wouldn't have the environmental impact if you didn't have the power and brine discharge. So it militates for taking a look at what's prudent and reasonable moving forward, and not moving forward on something that is way out of line and which is extremely expensive for the ratepayers here. And in the area of George Riley's thing, I wanted to say thanks very, very much for everything that everybody's put in. And I think the governance committee can do this working with CalAm, and it's not going to be against, nobody's going to be losing. It's going to be cutting down on the extent of profit that can be made. So anyway, thanks very much.
Thank you. Anyone else have suggestions for items for the next agenda? Okay, I'll close public comment. Any of my colleagues would like to add anything?
Actually, just in reviewing the minutes, this is what I mentioned before. Tom Rowley did request at the last committee meeting that the committee regularly review the status of the desal project costs. And I don't know when we have done that, when the last time was that we did that, but I think it probably would be a good idea for us to put that on the agenda.
Okay.
Add, so as part of the decision that came out last September, the commission ordered us to do quite a bit of reporting. And so some of that will be in the newsletter that comes out at the end of this month. So maybe let's see what that newsletter has, and if that could satisfy the question about the cost, because that was something they asked us to do. So I don't know if you want to meet when we are doing it. That's where
I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to decide whether or not it would be important to have it really in the public record by having it addressed at the meeting, as opposed to just a flyer that, people will get in the
It has
mail.
to be served to the service list on everyone on the project, so it is a public document per se. But certainly, that'll be the starting point for our presentation. to the
Good.
Service Committee, if you want to have that, but.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Anything? Okay, anything else? Good, all right. Okay, with that, we're adjourned until the 26th.